Our next speaker is Chief Procurement Officer and Global Lead Source to Pay at American pharmaceutical and biotech giant Pfizer. Sirsij Peshin, who's coming onto the stage in a few moments' time, will be sharing the vital role that people play in contributing to Pfizer's mission of outdoing yesterday. So let's give Sirsij a huge welcome.
We built this city on rock and roll.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sirsij Peshin. I have been with the company, delightful 27 years with Pfizer, and I'm a reasonably newbie to procurement. I spend most of my time in commercial, and prior to that, I was in digital for many, many years. The reason I moved to procurement is I have firm belief that procurement is going to be providing a competitive advantage to companies, particularly in these trying times. You see geopolitical risks that are impacting our environment, and of course, superinflationary pressures, and I would say the demand for new product launches. I feel procurement will play a competitive advantage, as I said earlier, for not just launching the products, shaping the products, but also helping supply assurance, as well as making sure we leave the planet a better place for the next generation. With that, today I want to share our story, Pfizer, of how we are evolving, adapting to the changing times, emerging needs of the business, and more importantly, trying to do our bit for sustainable world. So let's roll the video, please.
75 years, Pfizer has been discovering, developing, and delivering breakthroughs that change patients' lives. Our first breakthrough in 1849 was a groundbreaking way to treat parasites. Years later, we delivered life-saving supplies to the Union Army.
Thing happened, sorry.
For 175 years, Pfizer has been discovering, developing, and delivering breakthroughs that change patients' lives. Our first breakthrough in 1849 was a groundbreaking way to treat parasites. Years later, we delivered life-saving supplies to the Union Army. We continued on to become the world's largest producer of the miracle drug penicillin during World War II.
We're entering a new era of medicine in which the natural lifespan may be greatly expanded.
We fought polio with an oral vaccine and invented a needle that would be a key tool in eradicating smallpox.
The disease has been wiped off the face of the earth.
From discovering innovative therapies to treat heart disease and breast cancer, to delivering the first mRNA vaccine against COVID-19, Pfizer has changed the course of history. The world has changed a lot over the last 175 years, but one thing that has not changed is our commitment to our patients, the center of everything we do. To date, we've reached billions of patients with our medicines and vaccines, and we're just getting started, expanding the limits of science, harnessing unprecedented technologies and groundbreaking therapies. And through our heightened focus on oncology, Pfizer is driven to become a world leader in the fight against cancer. And together with our patients, advocates, partners, and colleagues, we are determined to outdo yesterday.
For the last 174 years, Pfizer has applied life-changing innovations to build a better and brighter future for the world. The speed at which we developed the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, with our partners BioNTech in under 10 months is truly unprecedented. This spirit of scientific innovation is unwavering, and of course, so are the people behind it. Creating a working environment that is inclusive, that's inspiring, innovative, as well as trying to create excitement for the workforce is one of our greatest motivations. We are invested in investing in our people, our capabilities, and more importantly, culture that helps us deliver on our purpose, which is delivering breakthroughs that change patients' lives. The last few years have had a huge impact on the business landscape, and some researchers tell us that probably in the last 30 years, this is probably the biggest shift happening in geopolitics. And so is the demand for medicines that are tailored to the needs of each individuals. And our ways of working and living have also adjusted and adapted accordingly. Sourcing teams have had to evolve and adapt accordingly. Let me share a couple of examples where Pfizer, in particular, when we were launching the COVID vaccine, we had to deliver the vaccine in unprecedented time. The sourcing team stepped up and made a difference. Number one example is related to cold storage packaging. As you know, vaccines, when they have to be shipped, they require ultra cold storage packaging, and it had never been done before. So we had to step up and define a packaging solution that was comprised of what we call primary, secondary, and tertiary packaging with an ability to sustain temperatures for 3 to 4 days. And then working with supplier partners to manufacture and supply. The sourcing team had to overcome, there was a semiconductor shortage across the world during COVID, you might recall that, and by leveraging those relationships, co-creating new products that had not been defined before, we worked to help secure sufficient electrical components to supply the monitoring devices. Number two example around forging a sourcing strategy with our BioNTech partners, which was more about delivering an optimal sourcing strategy for critical drug substances, raw materials. This approach allowed us not only to talk to the suppliers with one voice, set uniform specifications, forecast together, and allocate supply between the respective manufacturing nodes. This was also critical to drive supply assurance. In the absence of that, I'm not sure how we would have been able to help have an uninterrupted supply of vaccines across the world. Number three is one of my favorite examples is about what we did with in October, November 2022, where we were facing a rolling shortage of dry ice in EU. This was immediately after the Ukraine crisis. The energy prices were going quite unprecedented, and we had, as you know, we used dry ice for storing vaccines, and for dry ice we need carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct of chemical production, particularly fertilizer production. Given the cost of fuel had gone up, we were left with hardly 2 weeks of supply for carbon dioxide. So it was really a crisis kind of a situation for us. And as far as I recall, we were close to 2 weeks, I believe, and it could have hampered our ability to supply vaccines, particularly in Europe. So what I'm proud of my team, particularly Carl is somewhere in the room, he was the architect of what we did, is moving with light speed. We leveraged our supplier ecosystem, knocked on government doors, used industry bodies as well as personal connections, and within 5 to 7 days, we were able to obtain priority with our carbon dioxide suppliers, so thereby avoiding a disruption to the COVID vaccine supply and, of course, directly helping save many, many lives. Now, we recognize healthcare is a team sport, and in the absence of many of us working together, shoulder to shoulder, it would have been impossible to get rid of the COVID pandemic, probably the toughest healthcare crisis the world has seen in the last 100 years. And so I also want to take this opportunity to thank all our supplier partners, some of whom who are in this room, that for helping deliver breakthroughs that continue to save many, many patient lives. The external environment obviously has been shifting and will continue to shift. And even within our own, inside Pfizer, the internal org priorities are constantly evolving. And following the end of the pandemic, Pfizer has gradually been pivoting towards new challenges of how we deliver more value for our patients. And we have seen some of the pivot towards cancer, for example. We recognize that within the company, when I took the role, we had a seat at the table, and we had a seat at the table with a lot of respect that we garnered from our business stakeholders, but we were also pulled into a lot of directions. And it was like a mindset of no fear, sourcing is here, we can get it done, but that also meant we were not able to prioritize to the extent we can. And what we did that we also saw at the same time, we saw the ask or expectation from a business was shifting from not just being a cost-saving focus, but also what else can you do for us? Can you enable the revenues directly? Can you do cost avoidance for us and help us impact the bottom line appropriately? Can you bring new innovation in partnership with our suppliers? So there was an expectation from our business stakeholders. And throughout this, so we started asking ourselves the question of, okay, how can we stay ahead of these expectations? What should we be doing as a team, and so that we can move up the value chain? So the case for the change obviously was compelling, and we kicked off without a fancy word. We said, okay, what should be our North Star? So we didn't have any other sexier names to push for. Okay, what should be our North Star as an organization? And that's how we began our transformation journey. What we started was, okay, what should be our North Star? And North Star was purely a simple statement for us of how do we achieve, I would say, exceptional value creation and beyond cost containment and cost savings by, number one, promoting our capabilities, subject matter expertise, and how we are delivering value. Because the more we talk about it, the more there is recognition, and that gives us a seat at the table where we don't have, which is number two on this chart, which is leveraging our seat of the business leadership teams to bring new and innovative solutions. And third was then, by having a seat at the table, by bringing new ideas, how do we thereby significantly reduce time to source, and of course with improved quality and cost. With that, we started with an anchor for us about this change. What would the anchor be? And we said, let's look at the categories as an anchor. And the category strategy for us was a look, help us view on what all those opportunities are. So we looked at the taxonomy, the spend, and savings assessment, which offered some compelling, I would say, opportunities. So, for example, the zone teams at level one did not clearly map to material categories and making the category ownership unclear many times. So we also recognize that 20 categories were driving 90% of the savings. We also had to determine how the spend would be aligned between teams, because post-COVID, we were shifting some of our spending into new areas of growth. So this also required us to see how we can be more agile in supporting where the business is going. We challenged ourselves to significantly improve our return on investment. So we had a pretty healthy ROI, which translates roughly into total savings and costs of running divided by the cost of running the sourcing organization. But I was convinced that sourcing, to be recognized as a trusted business partner, we must balance driving operational efficiencies with effectiveness. And I think many a times how we position ourselves from a cost-saving point of view becomes just a money-saving game. But is our relevance really going to evolve with a period of time? It's critical, because otherwise we will lose our effectiveness and our value proposition table will get diluted. So the key question for us was, okay, how do we get into delivering better ROI? That's number one. And second, how do we make sure we are applying some holistic approach to managing the global strategy? when it comes to some of the value drivers which were not consistently applied across the category management piece. So we took a fresh look at our operating model. As said, starting with some of the work that had been that was expected for us to be more agile. We saw that how value is created for our stakeholders, both external and internal, and how can we elevate their experience of working with us. How we organize resources, and if additional work would be centralized in our strategic hubs. We have around 4 to 5 strategic hubs, and can we uplift some work to a lower cost locations, and also in some cases centralizing expertise within a smaller team. How can we make informed decisions? That also a big focus on data, analytics, and insights. And are we delivering or executing processes efficiently by standardizing and automating and leveraging AI where needed? This required a shift to a more category-centric operating model, and the category strategy plans would remain sort of tightly aligned with the supplier ecosystem and our business stakeholder needs. We also recognize the need for greater role specialization, and that helps develop a deeper expertise in key areas. In fact, all my team was mapped into 5 distinct role types. For example, category management, business engagement, and this helped us hone in how can we make them best in class, in their areas with their specific role types. We also started encouraging sourcing teams to experiment with AI and Gen AI tools. The experimentation helped us develop use cases, or continue to do that, because we want to take a more responsible approach of leveraging AI and Gen AI. There are also fundamental elements of the leveraging data, making sure the data elements out there, because AI can only be as good as the data you have within the company. And by doing that, I would say we're able to deliver sourcing insights and also equipping our people to leverage those sourcing insights effectively. So while all of this was happening, we also looked at big bets. And big bets was around where the company is going in the next 5-10 years. And that was around sustainability. And we had a net zero 2040 goals. It was for opportunity for sourcing to step up and expand our functional impact beyond savings. So like supplier diversity, this is, in my opinion, a voluntary value-based initiative, and Pfizer really takes it to heart. And it really mirrors the Pfizer's value of working with suppliers to drive consistent, trying to drive to consistent value for our patients and the communities we serve. The Net Zero program requires some subject matter specialization. Instead of training all my sourcing and contracting professionals to be net zero SMEs, we decided to integrate net zero criteria into our sourcing and contracting processes, and provided base training for all our professionals. This enables my team to drive the processes and escalate to an accessible and knowledgeable core team and SMEs, like a COE, very small COE we have called sustainable sourcing. Lastly, net zero is also about driving a win-win outcome. This requires sourcing teams to leverage our people's soft skills associated with influencing, partnering, and collaborating with suppliers and industry to drive innovative solutions. What I'm really proud also is we have done an amazing job in supply diversity. While if net zero is happening, also making sure the broader supplier ecosystem is working with us and learning with us. So we demonstrated continuous growth in supply diversity area. In fact, just last 1 year, we have increased our supply diversity spend by 50%. And then we do see that as a kudos to the team who has been working in partnership with some of the business leaders. These dollars that we spend, with our diverse suppliers, create economic impact, of course, drive health equity in the communities in which our colleagues and patients live. So, and we're very proud of the work that is being done there. Now, another area of focus for big bets was AI and Gen AI. I know we have been talking about this for a long time, and there'll be other speakers who will, but clearly every dollar we spend in AI also means we have multiple dollars spent in data. and insight. I think that's something which we recognize, and having those use cases that I mentioned earlier and let people play around with like Microsoft Copilots we are heavily using Copilot was important for procurement to get comfortable with AI and Gen AI, and we have made some obviously good progress there. We also took a multi-year roadmap on which is coupled with with partnership with my own digital colleagues within Pfizer. We're leveraging Gen AI, for example, to simplify our co-IDF contracts via the in-house ChatGPT functionality to create, I would say, summaries for stakeholders. We also have additional contracting using iCertis AI to identify key actionable contract metadata, rebates, privacy clauses, etc. In the invoice-to-pay space, we're leveraging Celonis process mining software to detect duplicate payments and help prevent fraud. And of course, as I mentioned, Copilot continues to be an enabler for the daily activities. So what we have achieved in the last couple of years, and in fact last 12 months, thanks to many of the leaders on my team and the 750 strong team we have across the world, we have now the value plans that we create for each category is co-defined with business partners. So this is on an annual and semi-annual basis. The sourcing turnaround time has improved by 20 to 25%. We gained about 8% in overall sourcing capacity, which was reinvested in the resources like where the business was going, as well as technology and data and insights. We are now doing more touchless transactions, dabbling a lot in AI, Gen AI, increase our diversity supplier spend, and maintain supply chain finance agreements with several participating financial institutions. At the end of 2023, we had close to $800 million in trade payables and suppliers who participate with us. But the best part of my journey here that I'm speaking to is despite 65% of my team having more than 50% impact on their roles, the remit change with the shift we have, our colleague engagement levels are at the highest, and I think we have not lost even a single colleague because of these changes. So that gives me hope that what we're doing is right, and of course we are investing in the growth of our people as well as helping them navigate where Pfizer is going and procurement is going. So let me close with a few takeaways. So in an increasingly unpredictable and volatile environment, sourcing leaders have to devote more resources to sensing as well as responding to threats and opportunities. I think fine-tuning approaches will limit our ability to maximize business value. That's number one. So dramatic improvements will obviously require a constant feeling that our world is being disrupted. Therefore, I would recommend good disruption should be there within the procurement organization, must have a compelling case for change, as well as a purposeful vision being made by leaders. Change is difficult, we know, for many of us. So go bold, but start small. Be ready to experiment, iterate and refine, and then scale rapidly. The most important differentiator for me is building a strong team culture, and that promotes transparency as well as helps us create a safe space where we can have psychological safety to rake up issues and challenges that are facing the business. I would say the key sourcing capabilities that if I'll summarize what I see important going forward, cost management will continue to be very, very critical. As inflation pressures are likely to persist, it's a no-brainer. I would also see a need for a 360-degree supplier insights, and which is not only about focus on spend, but include quality, external risk, and that other seasonal factors that impact our supplier base. Also, sustainable sourcing is a capability. I would say invest in now, invest small, then grow rapidly, but that's important for us to do the right thing. In fact, in my team, we have, as I said, the sustainable sourcing COE, and that is really giving us a big upside on working with suppliers and helping us promote their capabilities also. And also, effective engagement of technology-centric innovation. I think that particularly towards AI and Gen AI would be another capability that I would really dial down in. So working together, just to close, we moved with agility within Pfizer sourcing teams to help secure the supply chain and save the world. And from there, we have not stopped. We have moved on and continued to adapt to the constantly changing external environment. While sourcing in my industry, may look different from yours, I think we have one thing in common, which is the need or the aspiration for all of us to stay ahead of the emerging stakeholder needs and technology trends. And we can do this by equipping our teams with cutting-edge insights, tools, and skills, and thereby help maximize the value for our shareholders. So clearly, Pfizer, you heard the video, the Pfizer's milestone of reaching 175 years wasn't achieved by just changing and evolving. We did transform, we did challenge ourselves. And like Pfizer's sourcing did, to drive change, we must unite around a common purpose, which is creating breakthroughs that change patients' lives with Pfizer. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you.